Time for the T2.5 World Tour race number 2. I missed race number 1 because I was busy, so it's good to finally get on and try and earn some points for myself as well. Now, I'm recording this after the fact because I was in a rush to get on the bike before this. We've got a huge oak tree outside the front of our house that drops acorns, obviously, and I thought it'll be about a half an hour to an hour job to pick those up. 3 hours we were out there as a family picking up acorns. I've got bins and bags full, and I came in about 20 minutes before the race was due to start. I hadn't had any food, and I was aching all over, and I was pretty knackered already. So, yeah, that sounds like an excuse, but let's see how the race went. So, World Tour race number 2 is 2 laps of Gotham Grind reverse in New York. A typical New York route that is either going up or down, and there isn't much flat at all. We also have some other people who have sent over their footage of the race as well. We've got Pavel Zizou in the C-Cat. We also have Julia who sent over her C-Cat footage. And in the B-Cat, we've got Christopher Waring as well, along with me in the D-Cat. And what I haven't done this week, the same as last time, is I have not looked at anybody else's footage. I've not looked at any of the other race. I'm kind of watching this live as it happened. Apart from my race, obviously. I saw my race as it happened. But yeah, 2 laps of this course, pretty hilly, 18.2 kilometers. And my aim here is, as always, in every race we do, is to try and stay with the group. And hang on for as long as I can. I was kind of thinking the last time we raced New York as a T2.5 race, I managed to stay with the group for quite some time. So I thought to myself, actually, this might play into my hands with the sort of lumpy terrain and the lumpiness of my my usual sort of power output that I do. I thought it might play into my hands slightly. Just over 3 minutes in here, I've managed to hang on with the group, quite a big group. I can see lots of people in here. C-Cross, Kenneth Scramstad, O'Hanel, N. Ruddleston, DC Marks, A. Hugavine, A. Evans, L. Warrior, JJ, R. Dalton, M. Brandon, B. Jenkinson. I may have duplicated people there, but a nice big group, 16 riders in the D-Cat. And I've managed to stick in with the front group there, like I tried to as usual. Let's jump over and have a look at the C-Cat. We got Pavel, who's 9th. So there must be a couple of people up the road here. Oh no, he's just moved into 1st. So in with that group, everyone seems to be riding together in the C-Cat. And from Julia's perspective as well, there's a couple of people who have fallen off the back. D. Taylor and PRCC have fallen off the back slightly. But in the main, the group looks like it's together. And the C-Cat, the B-Cat, now this is slightly more spread out, isn't it? In a bit of a line here, but not major gaps between. But I guess what looks like we've got C Swan at the front doing over 5 watts a kilo. D Stark, C Jup, M Way, Chris White, N Slevin, B Bishop, all pushing to try and they don't seem to be working together too much at this point. It's more strung out on the road, but not necessarily a fast-paced race yet. So we're only 6 minutes in here, and you can already see that I've put in a couple of big red efforts to try and keep it with the group. The group was going at a pretty steady pace, actually, pretty quick pace. I've had to give in a couple of bursts here to catch back onto the top, and I'm feeling tired. Heart rate's up at 173, trying to catch the group, over 660 watts. Just trying to put a burst in to catch back onto the back. We've lost M. Brandon and R. Dalton slightly off the back. But in the main, the D group is together as I'm trying, as you can see, to do my best to catch on. I do eventually catch back, trying to put in some quick bursts to catch up on the back. But I know at this point that this race is going to be a bit of a struggle for me because I'm really feeling tired after a very busy morning. Having a look over at the C-Cat race, all sticking together here. We've got Roger Hall, D. Monroe, P. McMillan, you can see PC Zoo, George, M. Gregory, Andy Bullimore fallen 7 seconds behind. Then back to John Bushell, 11 seconds. and then it always just moves around. M. Reed and M. Coogs back there a little bit further back. From PZZU's point of view, riding on the front, him and Julia are riding together at the front of this pack as well, which is really, really good to see. And then over to Chris Waring's race. He's at the front of the pack himself at the moment. The group putting out about 2.5 watts per kilo. No one's really looking like they're going to make a break for a B-cat. And I do know a couple of the guys have said afterwards that the B-cat was quite a leisurely pace until the end. And it certainly shows here, just kind of all sticking together really on a, on a bit of an afternoon stroll at the moment. The C-Cat have just made the 6 kilometre mark, and it looks like we have a breakaway. Roger Hall's gone for it, 7.6 watts per kilo. PZZU, Pavel's trying to go with him, as have a couple of others. Let's switch to the other camera angle. George as well, we're trying to keep up with those guys up front. Is this going to split the group possibly? Going quite quick off down the road. Pavel's putting out big watts as well, trying to keep up with that group that have shot off. And then let's go back to Julia just to see how many people are kind of broken away here. Julia's doing her best to catch onto the back of that group. It'll be interesting to see how this splits or whether it comes back together again. Whilst we're doing that, let's have a look over at the B-Cat race. Chris is off the front, just around 3 watts per kilo. Christopher Waring just behind. They're still all kind of together, really, within 2 seconds of each other. Doing really well. Back in the race, and let's see if any of this is stuck. So Roger Hall, George have pulled out a 2-second lead. It looks like it's likely to come back together again. It's an interesting point to attack that on that little hill. Put out some big watts, sprint up that hill, and you might use the downhill to kind of get away, but unfortunately it doesn't look like it worked this time. Good effort though. And then back over to the D-Cat, which are currently all riding together. You see, I've been in the red zone a couple of times. Really starting to feel it, if I'm honest, at this point. I kind of regret spending the morning in the garden, but I'm doing my best to hang in with that group. Only a little further up the road, and we can see that the C-Cat is starting to split again. We've got Julia, who's just hanging on to the back of Jay Lee here. A couple of the others have gone 2 or 3 seconds up the road. Let's have a look from Pavel's point of view. He's doing his best to catch onto the back. So P. McMillan, George, Roger Hall have gone for it with D. Monroe and Pavel trying to keep up. Julia is a second behind, trying to catch on the back of that before they disappear too far up on the road. But unfortunately, Julia's kind of ended up on her own. She's got no support from behind. Let's see if they push up this hill. We've got, let's see, 4.4 watts from Roger Hall there. Just pushing up the hill. George matching at just over 5.5 watts per kilo. This is the point, I guess, where they could get the breakaway if they work together. Julia's trying to push hard behind, trying to catch onto the back, as they might disappear off over this hill and use the draft to get away. There's Pavel doing his best to latch on to this group and stay with them as well. Going around for the end of this lap then, they have got that gap. Julia's dropped back to ride with John Bushell, Roger Hall, Jay Lee, D. Monroe, P. McMillan, George and P. Zizou out front in the C-Cat. They're just crossing over the lap for the end of the first lap, as are the B category as well. So riding slower. It's taken them longer to get to this point in the race than it has for the C's. Still kind of all together, nothing really to talk about in that group. And then going back to ours in the D-Cat, we're a little bit away. We just kind of come to the slightly hilly bit, and you can see again I've had to put out bursts of red effort just to keep up with this group. Unfortunately, it's one of those races I was really looking forward to, but I wasn't feeling it, and I had a bit of a problem on this hill. I stood out of the saddle to just push, and you'll see I sit down in a minute, and I felt a twinge. There you go, you can see it on my face. I felt a twinge behind my left knee, and I kind of pushed for a little while, and then it comes across my mind thinking, do I push this? Is it going to make it worse? What do I do to try and catch up with this group? And I kind of thought, I don't want to do any more damage, but I don't want to lose the group. And then by the time I'd even thought about it, the group was gone, and I knew I knew no matter what I did, I wouldn't catch them. Being, I'd lost that 5 seconds to the front of that group already. I just don't think, I kind of knew at this point I didn't have the effort to stay with it, and it was kind of race over, which is really, it's quite a depressing position to be in when you were really, really looking forward to the race. And I really wish I hadn't gone out into the garden in the morning. Just over 12k in for the Ds then. Well, for me specifically, the rest of the Ds are about 50 seconds ahead of me. I've completely lost the back of them now. 6.3 kilometers to go. I've got Rebel Spawn, who becomes my next target. My target here is now to stay ahead of Rebel Spawn. M. Brandon a little further back, and R. Dalton. Over to the BCAT. Let's drop in at the BCAT very quickly. As you can see, all still together. No one's really, a couple of bigger efforts. Chris was putting out 4 watts per kilo there, but probably because they're on a hill. Still taking a ride around together, really. Where the action is all in the CCATs. So D. Monroe's just gone off the front, and there seems to be a couple of breakaway attempts that happen throughout this, and then it's chasing. I see some Be Ready ZRS there. Don't know whether there was an element of teamwork in this or not, but I can see a couple of people pull out the front, which leads the others to try and push to keep up with them. I know Pavel looks like he's putting a lot of effort in to stay with his group here. And Julia has unfortunately fallen off the back of the group, and John's made a 35-second lead over her. So I'll keep an eye on and looks where all the action is going to be is on the front of this CCAT race, and then potentially towards the line in the BCAT as well. And unfortunately, because I've dropped off the back of the Ds, that's the last that we see of the Ds, unfortunately. The Cs are heading towards the final 2 kilometers. Let's see if there are anyone who pushes off the front at any point here. There's a go, go, go message there. And who is going to go, go, go? Doesn't look like anybody yet. Oh, there we go. Roger Hall's gone for it. 6.7 watts per kilo. Pavel trying to up his power. George is upping it to over 9.5 watts per kilo. P. McMillan doing the same. Pavel doing his best just to kind of, I think, gradually close that gap, actually. Just putting out a constant power up to 6 watts per kilo. D. Monroe's gone for it as well. So they're chasing up the road. Let's have a quick look at where the BCAT is, because they're in a very similar position as well as they come towards the line. That'll be interesting to see. But I think all the action at the moment is over in the CCAT. They're going to hit the hill, they say. So they're going to power up this hill as well. 1.5 kilometers left. This isn't the finish line. The finish line is a little further round. Pavel trying his best to latch onto the back of this group. And let's see some of the power numbers as they go up here, pushing away from it. And maybe this is where we can see some action in the Cs, in the Bs as well. As Noel is putting out 7.5 watts per kilo, going for it here, trying to create a gap. Chris has gone with him, maybe. Chris White, Chris Jupp now up to 7 watts per kilo. It's finally getting some action in the BCAT race as well, as Chris Waring, there's too many Chris's in the BCAT. M. Way putting down 8.5 watts per kilo to try and bridge that gap. It looks like Noel's attempt up that hill has led to a few people trying to put in an effort to keep up as well. Over here then, so it looks like Pavel's lost the back of this group. So Roger Hall is 13 seconds ahead. P. McMillan 12. George with him as well. And then we've got a couple of back markers in the list for some reason. Jay Lee, 2 seconds ahead of Pavel. They've got 800 meters to go. Let's head back to the CCAT then. The BCAT. Keep getting the categories muddled up. As we'll see, Christopher Waring on the front at the moment. We'll go back to Pavel if he pulls his way back onto that group. But they going to start making their way down here. They've got 500 meters left, pretty much on the same area of the course now as the CCAT are, as they come around the same corner. But I think actually the Bs are going to get to the end first. Let's keep an eye on them. And there goes Neil Corbin. 9.1 watts per kilo. He's going for it. Chris White trying to stay with him. Everyone trying to look at those huge numbers. Finally, the BCAT comes to life, sprinting up the hill towards the end of the line. Who is going to take this? I think Ben Bishop might get there first, followed by Chris Look at those orange numbers. Huge sprint to the line. We'll have to check the results to see who finishes there first. Let's jump back across to Pavel in this race. Unfortunately, he doesn't close that gap. We don't quite get to see the sprints to the line, but awesome job, Pavel, keeping up with that group throughout the race. Going back to Julia, who is now riding with Andy Bullimore. John's got a minute lead over both of those guys. M. Gregory just behind, 40 seconds behind. And back to a couple of the other riders behind in that CCAT group as well. And then you got me riding on my own. 2.5 kilometers left to go, and I'm still thinking my aim is to keep Rebel Spawn behind me. I got a 48-second lead, but I know that can come down pretty quick because I just know how tired I am and how I'm feeling. So that's my aim, is trying to just keep that gap as high as possible because it could disappear pretty quick. Let's watch Julia and Andy head towards the line. Then Julia suddenly goes for it. 8.7 watts per kilo, over 8 watts per kilo, pushing out first. Can Andy match? Not that far to go, 100 meters to go. Andy's still sat at 3.5. I think that's the 8th spot secured for Julia there. Awesome sprinting. Great effort, just under the half an hour mark. Just under 1.5 kilometers to go for me here. I haven't really felt my knee again at this point, but you can see I stand out of the saddle and I feel it again. I kind of sit back down and think, yep, better not do that because that hurts. So I just go back into a steady pace, get up the hill, and by this point I'm just thinking, I want the race to be over. Really wasn't feeling good, knackered, my knee was hurting. I wanted to see the finish line. And by the time we do get to the finish, Rebel Spawn's closed that gap to 18 seconds, putting out over 4 watts per kilo. And I'm just pleased to see the finish line here, get over, and keeping my fingers crossed that that knee issue isn't something that's going to cause me a problem, and it was just caused by the exercise of the morning, and isn't something that will recur again, but I'll have to wait and see. But yeah, the results are on the screen there, but we'll go through the proper results afterwards. So not my best performance on the bike. I kind of wish that I'd left the Acorns until after the race, but it was good to be able to get on and earn some points. I'm recording this a couple of days afterwards, and I am aching like crazy. And it's, for some of you are probably laughing at me for this, but at the end of the day, I'm an overweight guy, and I sit at a desktop job pretty much all day, every day. I don't do much physical activity aside from the bike. And yeah, I was struggling to walk yesterday. So yeah, at least that's done. And I still got on and got some points. Let's have a look at the DCAT results then. JJ winning it for the second race in a row, 50 points. And then a few riders behind that, really close together. Daniel Seamarks in second, 30.03. A split second between Latix and Hainel. Harry just 2 seconds behind that. Just so close. I really wish I could have hung on to that group and got into the sprint towards the finish. But I got myself a 33.54 and 40 points. JJ, if we look at the overall standing, winning it at the moment. Obviously, these are likely to change as we go along, just because it's your top 8 races that count towards your final points tally. Let's have a look at the CCAT. George Evans winning it. We kind of saw that CCAT split a little bit towards the end. Pavel trying to hang on, 28.23 in the end with 56 points. A close finish between Roger Hall and Paul McMillan in second and third. And again, if you look at the overall standings, George closes that gap at the top to a point. And we've got some people a little bit further down who've only done one race each. Roger Hall on 59 points and Chris Cole 59 points. So I could creep the way up to the top when we start getting to the 8 races calculations that we have to do. On to the BCAT. Ben Bishop just getting over the line ahead of Chris. Great sprinting there. And Neil, again, just behind, a split second ahead of Andy Robertson. I mean, look how close those numbers are. Chris White, Chris Waring, Chris Swan, that whole D group kind of went quite slow, I think, for the majority of that race. And then it spiced up towards the end. But Ben getting his second win in a row. Chris coming second for his second race in a row as well. And finally onto the ACAT then, we've got John Kerr taking the 80 points again. John Guthrie coming in for the first race of the series with 79. Level with Synth Rider, who didn't make this race. And then Eric in third, 27.28. So good to join in and get some points. My points have probably put me a little bit higher than they would have because there's a few less riders in this race than there were in last week's, but I'm sure that'll sort itself out, because remember, it's only your 8 best results that count. 12 races left to go, so if you haven't started yet, there's still plenty of races to get those 8 in, and then we'll see how that all falls out. I think the leaderboards will start to move around a little bit race by race once we get into the sort of 8 races done. Next race up is on the 30th of October, 8 o'clock in the evening UK time, and we are doing a race in Mercury, valley to mountain top, 5.1 kilometres, so a nice short one, but 131 metres of climbing. A very different race to the ones that we've done so far, sort of a hilly sprint, and the first time potentially where the choice of bike might come into play here. Some of it is gravel and some of it is pavement. The majority of the climb, I think, is gravel. So yeah, I think we might see a few people doing different options on the bikes. One that potentially I won't do particularly well in because I'm not great at climbing, and I'm certainly not very good at climbing in the gravel, but I'm looking forward to that one. Getting the next race done and getting some more points. I want to say, as usual, a huge thank you to all the channel members coming up the screen now. Having your support is incredible. If it's something you're interested in, head over to buymeacoffee/target 2.5 where you can join up on there and get your name shouted out in one of the videos. But that is the end of this video. Kind of, yeah, I'm happy. I didn't hang on to the back. I was aching a lot. I haven't had any more recurrence of any knee issues in the couple of days since that ride. So I've guessed that was just me bending down and picking up all these acorns. So fingers crossed that's not an issue and I can get on the bike next time with no issues whatsoever. And I'm looking forward to the next race. All the T2.5 information is in the links below if you want to come along to the Facebook group Discord channel. That's the best place to find out where all of our rides are, and the links below for all the rides as well, including race number 3 of the tour. But yeah, that's the end of this one. If you have enjoyed it, do hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.